Automated testing is used by software developers to make sure that their program works without having to manually go through every test case. What I'm going to do in this video is show you something I've been working on with my game engine to make automated testing something that I can actually benefit from in my game, specifically as it relates to the development of visual novels. Um, a major problem in my experience making visual novels has been whenever you have a bunch of choices in the game and those choices manipulate variables behind the scenes, and you want to be able to test and make sure that you can actually get to the end of the game depending on the choices you made, and that maybe if the player takes a path that you didn't think about, the player is able to get there too. So first I'm going to sort of explain the problem and all of the background knowledge that you'll need to understand this, and then show you the solution that I've been able to build in my game engine, and we'll go through some examples and show you just what I'm talking about. So basically, recently I've been trying to port my game Detective Butler from its visual novel engine. It was built in OnScripter like 7 years ago, and it's getting to be an old engine, so I thought, well, for a variety of reasons, I thought I would port it to my new engine that I've been making. So the benefits of that being that I can port it to some new platforms I want to put the game on, and it'll be a great proof of concept to show that my game engine is actually capable of making a game. So I have basically ported in the script file here from the original game. It's very similar, but there are some differences, and we're just going to go through this and show you what I've been trying to do. In the midst of all this, like I said, we put out the DLC earlier this year, and the DLC involves choices and branching. So there is one issue with trying to test this. And so, for example, I'm going to show you, maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. We have this command to go to chapter 5. So let's boot the game up. And so here we are, we're in chapter 5. Now, I implemented this neat little screen that lets us see variable values as we play through the game. And you can see these are 0, but then as we go through, we can actually see, like, as it loads the characters in, it shows you what things have been loaded, and so on and so forth. So what we want to pay attention to are these points down here, because these are the these are like the way of keeping track of which route you're supposed to be on. So you can see we have all zeros here. Now I'm going to skip through this to a certain point, but let me just explain that basically the way that this works. Oh, we have to pick a choice right here. Doesn't really matter. But we have to pick a choice, and then we move on. But the way that these choices work here is that when you pick certain choices, the numbers go up or down. And because we just skipped straight to chapter 5, we didn't go through chapter 1. And because we didn't go through chapter 1, Gilligan never actually met Detective Butler in the story. So now he's going to be at this point in the story. And if we go a little bit further, see, now they're all suspicious that Gilligan is the culprit, and Detective Butler's not there to step in and actually solve the mystery. So, see, whoops. So Gilligan is getting really defensive now, and you know, this is the branch in the game, basically. So it is branched to the bad ending, basically, where Gilligan is accused of being the culprit and everything. So this is bad, though. If I want to, for example, as I'm testing the game, I might actually want to be interested in testing the main route. Or I might be interested in testing the normal chapter 5 that doesn't involve branching into the bad ending. And of course, the reason it branches to the bad ending is because the value of that variable was 0, and you're going through the process of chapter 1 would increment that value to above 0, and then it would be okay. But because we skipped chapter 1, that value is still 0, which means we get to the bad ending. So the question is, how do we make sure that if I want to test a particular chapter, that all of the variables leading up to it have been set? And this gets us into, if you think about this deeply enough, it gets you into automated testing territory. Because the problem is setting all these variables and, you know, getting the result that you want to get. So, well, let's think about this. So let's say we just want to, let's just start from the beginning of the game. This is the possibly naive way of doing it. Start at the beginning of the game, and This might take a while, but we'll just play through until chapter 5. No, don't don't think we're gonna do that. But this is how you would do that. If you play till chapter 5, sure, you hold down the skip button to skip through. Um, and again, you can see all the variables are being set in different ways. But this would take forever if I had to do this. Um, Even so, I can't just hold the button down. Because guess what? I have to pick choices here. So I could, just pick every choice. And here's the other problem with this approach is you have to make sure you don't pick the wrong choices. Because, what if you're partway through testing this and you're supposed to be picking choices in a consistent way, but then you accidentally pick the wrong one? Or maybe you do something that, who knows what, it crashes the game and you have to start all over. So fast forwarding this way would take forever to do, so we're not going to go through all that. And then, of course, you get all the way to the end, and maybe it crashes once you get to chapter 5, or there's something that happens that you didn't think would happen, and then you have to do the whole thing all over again. It takes forever. You don't want to do that. So one thing that we can do is I set up this thing, and we can just skip ahead to chapter 1. Let's see, it's called auto choice. So if I type auto choice, it's exactly what you think it is. So I save that, and we're going to play through it. So we're in chapter 1 now. And auto choice, you'll see in a second. So we get to the choice here. So this is normally where you see a prompt, but we don't see anything here. And it's because auto choice automatically picks the choice assigned to that number. So because I said auto choice 1, it always picks the first choice on the choice prompt, which is super helpful because then I can just skip through it without having to actually click any choices. But still, it's going to take forever to skip. So, is there anything we could do about that? Well, all right. So one solution to this problem that I've discovered and built is something I like to call traveling. So instead of skipping through the game, we can travel through the game. We can travel from point A to point B, and hopefully it should be pretty fast. So I'll show it to you, and then I'll explain how it works. So it's not showing any graphics or text, but we are seeing this little pop-up over here in the command window, and you can see that we're in chapter 1, and it just keeps going, and it's executing every single command in sequence, ignoring text and ignoring drawing things to the screen. That way it can just execute all the commands and just get from point A to point B as fast as possible. And when it reaches point B, it stops and gives us control again. And this way it lets the game actually, set all the variables it needs to set, and with the auto choice, whenever it encounters a choice prompt, it's going to automatically pick a choice, so it won't be stopped by choices. And when it picks a choice, those choices are going to affect variables in the game. So see, we're in chapter 3 now. So it takes a few minutes to get through, but we're able to actually modify the variables that we need to modify and get to where we need to be within a very short amount of time compared to manually holding the button down and skipping through the game very slowly. We're almost into chapter 5, but I think we could do better than this. There it is right there. So it took a while, but let's see if we can do better. So I wrote a file here that basically, if we put commands in the file, this is going to let the game know that the game can just ignore running these commands, because you saw how many commands it was running. So if we just reduce that number to a smaller number of commands and it just skips over these, then maybe it'll go faster. And so these are predefined by me. And actually, I can take some of these out. I can put more in if I want to. These are just commands that I know won't affect any variables and won't affect the control flow of the game. So I can put those in there. Now it's going to run, and it's going to run a lot faster. So watch. 3, 2, 1, boom. So we are now in chapter 5. That took about 3 or 4 seconds at most, and here we are. Now you'll also see our variable here. I'll keep skipping because it takes us a little bit to get to where we want to get to, but our variable here for Detective Butler is now at 2, which before it was 0, and because it was 0, we didn't play through chapter 1, so it never got above 0, and I need to make a choice right here, because after we travel, our choices come back on, but basically, because we didn't play through chapter 1 and just skipped it the first time, the number was 0, but because we traveled from point A to point B and executed all the commands in between, our points are now 2, which means whenever we get to this point in the game where Detective Butler either can appear or can't appear, we know that he will show up because we have 2 points in our arsenal here. So a few more seconds and there he is. So that is amazing. So let's take this to another level, actually. And instead of just traveling from 0 from the prologue to chapter 5, let's go through the whole game. And we can do this if we go to the title screen, because every endpoint in the routes goes to the title screen. So let's give that a try. And let's just take a look at this. See, look at that. So we went to chapter 10, see, 9, 10. By the way, this also counts for the interrogation sections where you have to click on buttons on the characters. So it's not just a choice prompt. It also works for buttons, for sprite buttons. So that's really cool. So there could be interactive sections that it can automatically go through. And so here we are. We're back at the title screen. So we made it through the main game. Now, let's make things even more interesting if we modify this choice prompt, because obviously the only thing we did was we went through the main game. But because we have choices in the game now, we also want to make sure that all of our alternate routes work the way that they should and that they aren't broken. So let's modify this to 2. And 2 is going to mean that we pick every second choice in the choice prompt. So let's run that now. So there we go. We're back at the title screen. And as you can see, we didn't make it to chapter 10 or 9 or even 5. Well, no, we did. But once you get to 5, you split up there, because that's, again, if you pick the second choice, Butler won't show up, and then, you know, he won't be able to solve the murder. So, so therefore, we reached a different ending. So the game went through, and it verified that we could actually make it to that bad ending all the way through and back to the title screen. Now let's try something else, and I'm doing this intentionally. So let's do choice number 3. So it will always pick the third choice on every prompt. Let's see what happens. Oh, well, look at that. We have an issue. Yeah, so we have an issue. It's different from what I thought it was going to be, but it gets the point across. Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay, never mind. This is what I was looking for. So, so this tells us, so Visual Studio is not very helpful, but at least my output on my command window tells us that, you know, it could not find the cutscene label, chapter 3, drink 13. So we tried to go through, we tried to pick every third choice, but we couldn't find this label. And because of that, the game crashed. Now, you don't want the game to crash when your players go through it. So what this tells us is, you know, we had 2 routes that worked perfectly, and we could have been content to just play only those routes. But because we picked every third option, that combination was a bad combination, and that caused the game to crash. And if a player were to do that, their game would crash, and they would be extremely unhappy about it, and rightfully so. And I see that happen way too often with visual novel games that are published, where some combination of choices that either I pick or somebody picks crashes the game, and people don't seem to understand that, or maybe there's not a good way for them to test it, but they need to test that game before they ship it. So this whole framework by design that I'm making here is to make it so that you can very easily and quickly test all of your branches of your code. So here, if we go to cutscene label chapter 3 drink 13, so I can just do a quick search for that. You know, we can immediately figure out the problem here. So, which, well, I can at least, because I'm familiar with the code. But basically, because this is a port of my game from the old script to the new script, the way choices were handled before was to have all of the options first, and then all of the labels that they go to afterward. But the way that I decided to redo it was to have option, label, and so it thinks that. Yeah, it thinks that it's supposed to be going to, I think that's it. Yeah, chapter 3, drink 13. Well, let's see. Could not find cutscene label, chapter 3, drink 13. Well, we have it right there. So this is debugging time now. I thought it was different, though, because, well, I intentionally let this be wrong, but I think it can't find this label, so what's it looking for? Oh, right. Okay. So we actually have, okay, this is a different issue. So, so for whatever reason, semicolons on those lines don't work. So that actually told us a different problem. If we run the game now, it's funny. I intentionally left a bug in the code, but it ended up being a different bug. It's not the first bug to happen while I recorded this. Okay, there we go. So I just fixed it right there. Um, on stream or video or whatever this is. So, yeah, so we did that. And now, actually, let me just, I will need to fix that other part of the code, by the way. But I won't do that now because that'd take too long. But if I pick choice 4, actually, this could break it. This could break on that point. I don't know what's going to happen now. If we pick choice 4, it'll pick every fourth choice. And if there's not a fourth choice, it'll pick you know, the next largest one. Okay, that actually worked. Where did we get to? Yeah, we got to, okay, that's fine. We got to the bad ending. Now, the thing that I would like to do, I can put 99 there and it won't break, unless it breaks in the game, but it'll just pick the maximum choice it can pick, which probably is 4 or 5. Oh, no, okay, so we ended up picking the drink that sends you back to the title screen. So that's a different ending that we got. So you can easily see, you know, the different combinations that you have in your visual novel can, or even just any sort of game, can drastically change the way that the game flows. And the way that I would like to build upon this is, you know, it's not at this stage yet, but what I would like to do is set it up so that it automatically goes through every single combination of choices in the game. And I think this is basically all I need to do that. You know, we're just one step away from that, where it can automatically pick all the choices it needs to automatically pick, going from the start to the title. And actually, this is a bit of a side note, but I didn't realize I was doing this while I wrote this stuff. But there's a concept that I learned about in my university algorithms class, computer science, where when we're talking about graph theory or network flow, there's this concept of a source and a sink, and maybe you can look that up in the Edmonds-Karp algorithm. But basically, you've got a source and a sink and a bunch of nodes in between, and essentially, I just built that kind of a thing right here, where what we want is the first state in your graph diagram is always going to be like you know, the beginning of the game, and then the end state is always going to be the title screen. But really, they're one and the same. So what I would do is I would make sure that the title screen, we always start at the title, but then every possible combination of choices sends us through the graph or whatever we have, the state machine that we have, and we always end up back at the title screen. And so our source is the same as our sink. The beginning is the same as the end. So it loops through that until it gets through every combination of choices. And I think the only thing I would need to add here is some sort of way of making sure the game knows which sequence of choices it's already picked, because in the first place, the game can't actually know, nor should it know, how many choices there are and where the choices lead. So it needs to sort of discover the choices in the branches as it goes on. And, you know, that's not going to be easy, because it would be something along the lines of, you know, it would have to go through the whole game, remember all the choices that it made, and then when it loops around back to try the game again, basically compare, okay, is this set of choices equal to the set of choices I've already taken? If it's not equal to the set of choices I've already taken, then we're gonna go down that path because it's new. Sort of like a depth first search kind of algorithm, but almost sort of backwards. I don't know. I need to do more thinking on that, but basically, you know, this is laying the groundwork for an automated testing system for my visual novel games. And of course, this only is within my game engine. It's possible that other game engines have something like this in them. I just don't know about it, maybe. I know that there's some sort of feature in Ren'Py called warping that I guess takes you to a specific label, and maybe executes all code up to that point. But I don't know if it's as robust as this system. And you know, I would like to improve this one even further to where basically at the press of a single button, you can. What I would like is you press a single button once, and it tells you everything that is, you know, every single combination of choices leading to all the different paths, and if any single path is going to crash your game. So instead of like actually having it crash, maybe it would just do a try catch error block and write it to an output file saying error, you know, we took this set of choices and it led us to this crash. And that would at least help me out and figure out, okay, well, you know, we've got 100 different combinations, and 85 of them might work, but then there's 15 of these combinations that end in crashes or perhaps behavior that we don't want. And the whole time that we're going through that command prompt, you could see the exact path. Like, it wasn't even just like beginning and end. You could see the path that was taken. So that's extremely helpful, not just for this game, but for any game in the future that I want to make that involves this sort of system. So that's my plan, is to keep building upon this and make that kind of thing. It's not there yet, but I just got this done this weekend, and I wanted to share this. So, if you know anything about these kinds of systems, let me know. If you think that there's perhaps another engine that does this kind of thing, let me know. I'd be very interested to see, because I don't think that it really is possible. I don't think anyone else has done this yet, but maybe I'm wrong. So let me know. And also let me know what you think about this video in general. If you found this helpful, entertaining, or if you think you would use this for your game that you want to make, let me know, because I want to get this out so that other people can make games with this. I would really like to build an actual visual editor for it rather than just text-based like this. So that's kind of a long time from now, probably, but the long-term vision is to get it out there. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, found it interesting and helpful. And yeah, that's about it for today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.